Hi guys. So, how many work weeks do you have left before the midterm? 2. Dos. Deux fois. That's 2 times in French. I don't know. Anyways, did you know that no other language has a word for twice a single word? It's a very English word. Twice and thrice means 2 times and 3 times. And I had, like, no other language has like a single word for those things. Every other language has a, like, 2 times or 3 times. But no one has a single word that means 2 times, twice. I just found that, I found that interesting when I was young, and I learned how to say 2 times in a bunch of different ways. All right. We're going to try, to talk about interaction today. Interaction is something very important, and today what we're going to talk about is 2 things. 1, genuine interaction you can add onto your page, but more importantly, fake interaction that you can add onto your page. And the reason that this is important is because this class, unfortunately, this class is not teaching you to make an e-commerce website. There's a number of reasons that we're not teaching you to make an e-commerce website. We're not teaching you how to take credit cards. We're not teaching you how to deal with customer support. We're not teaching you how to make products or anything like that. What we are teaching you is how to prototype an e-commerce website. How to design out the concepts and think about the concepts and think about data-oriented websites. Okay? It's very important to understand that in this class we are focusing on the idea of prototyping, not necessarily the idea of full-on making. Why isn't this working? Hello. Hello, computer. Hello, computer. Hello. Hello. What? Ah, there we go. So today we're going to talk about adding into interaction to our page and how important it is to kind of figure out how to develop interaction, but how actually sometimes easy it is to fake interaction. And when I say fake interaction, what I mean is being able to design something that looks like it works good enough so that somebody who is actually a developer would then be able to develop that into a genuine interaction. They would at least have the animations or transitions necessary done, and they would be able to then turn that into a more complex actual interaction. Like, what we're going to do today is we're going to learn how to animate something changing and something shifting as if someone had chosen something. But we're not going to actually have the user choose anything. It's just going to look like it. And that's super important because too often you guys get into a mode when you're designing on something like Illustrator and Sketch, and all you're designing for is the look, the static look of the thing. But how things interact and how things animate and transition between states is super important as well. So we're going to talk about interaction and how to fake interaction. Okay? So let's all go ahead and take our module 4 and let's make it into a module 5. Copy all your stuff over to your module 5 folder. Close all of your module 4 code. Close it all up. Move it all away, and then let's make sure that we are in our module 5 right now. Everybody should be on module 5. Close your module 4 code, open up your module 5 code. And again, I want to remind people that while we're in class, taking good notes is important. Trying to type along with me while I'm coding is super important as well, even if you get behind and then you catch up at midpoint and then catch up at when the class is done as well. Okay? So, what do we have here? We have this nice navbar thing currently in our page. And we have shown how to make a whole bunch of nav bars and all that kind of stuff. And now what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to add a couple of more interaction concepts into our page. And we're going to learn about something super important called the checkbox trick. the checkbox trick is something that is I don't know if you guys know this, but pretty soon we're going to have to make forms. A lot of you probably started making forms this week. Forms are super fun. You can design them just like anything else. But their structure is actually something that's mildly important to understand how to code and design. We'll talk about that again later when we actually get to forms for our PHP stuff. But for right now, what we want to talk about is the checkbox. The checkbox and the radio button are two input elements that aren't easily designed. If you try to redesign a checkbox or a radio button, what you'll find out is that you can't. So let's see what those things look like. If we have a checkbox, then it will probably look like this. Okay, this is a checkbox. Hooray! Looks like that. That's a checkbox. And you might think to yourself, well, I want a different kind of checkbox. And you are screwed. There is no different kind of checkbox. That's it. That's all the checkbox there is. And this is one of those things where the first time you run into it, it can be very frustrating when you try to redesign it and you just realize that you can't. There is no redesigning this checkbox. But there is a very interesting aspect to the checkbox, which is the label. So for instance, if we make another one of these, and we say that there is a label, then we can make a label, and that label, oh, God, damn it, get out of there. Okay, oh, there, here we go. What we can do with a label is we can wrap it around a checkbox, and with a label that is wrapped around a checkbox, if we then put some text here like checkbox, and we save it, and we refresh, what we can then do is we can, for instance, click on the text of checkbox here, and it will activate that checkbox, which is very interesting. So the label is now activating the checkbox. What we can also do is we can make a label that is for an input. Now, in order to make a label that is for an input, what we need is for the input and the label to both have, for the input to have an ID, and for both the label to be for and the ID to be the same value. So what we're going to have is we're going to have a label that is for an ID, and we'll say input 1, which is a horrible name for anything. And then we'll say checkbox. And if we save and we refresh, we now have both of our checkboxes are capable of activating their appropriate inputs. What we have is a label around an input, and any text inside of there activates the input. We also have a label that's for an input, and it activates the input. Now what's important about this, you guys, is that this label can be anywhere. So for instance, right now, there is a checkbox over here, and an image, and then the checkbox label over here. Whoop. This label is still for this checkbox. Now this image isn't. This image doesn't do anything. It's not part of the label. This checkbox is now activated by this label that is for it. What that means is that a label that is anywhere on the page but for an ID'd input means that it will activate that ID'd input. This is very interesting. Now, when this was first introduced, it was introduced for inputs. The idea was you make a label for the input and you click it and your mouse or your cursor is put into the input so you can start typing. It basically gave you a way of giving a bigger clickable area for your inputs so that people wouldn't accidentally not click it.
but then it was also useful for the checkboxes and the radio buttons because they had such a small clickable area. Checkboxes and radio buttons have such a small clickable area that having the whole label for the checkbox be clickable made them have the whole area around them clickable and activate that input. That was useful. And then designers got a hold of this and said, wait a minute, we can do something interesting with that. So what can we do interesting with that? Well, what we can do is we can, for instance, make a fave icon using the checkbox trick. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a div that has a class of fave. Inside of here, I'm going to make an input that has a type of checkbox. Whoops. And then I'm going to give an ID of fave1. Or actually, we'll call it product1. Why not? Now, one thing you'll notice is that I'm giving really specific IDs to my inputs, and that's because every ID on a document has to be unique. No ID can be repeated on the page. Okay? Every element with an ID has to have a unique ID. You can't have product, product, product. You have to have like product 1, product 2, product 3. When it comes to IDs. That's why we have classes. Classes are reusable. We can reuse the same class over and over again, but IDs must be unique. It's one of the reasons that we don't want to use IDs for CSS. CSS causes unique design, and we don't want unique design. We want consistent design. And consistent design is achieved through classes that are reused throughout our document. But when it comes to form inputs need to be able to focus on one input. And in order to focus on one input, it has to have a unique ID. Okay? So we have a checkbox that has a unique ID. After that checkbox, I'm going to make a label. Now, it's important that the first time we made this label, we put it before the checkbox to show that the space it came around didn't matter. Here we're going to make this label after the input. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm then going to make this say and hearts, which is an HTML element for a heart. I don't know if you guys know about HTML entities. HTML entities is something you can look up and search, and you can even, where is that list? There's a great list. Is it this one? The character entity reference chart? Yeah. The character entity reference chart just shows you all the characters that are standard characters that you can use, including a bunch of symbolism and images like arrows and all kinds of other stuff. Now, what I'm then going to do is I'm just going to make sure that it works. If I click this checkbox, okay. If I click this heart, it activates the checkbox. You guys, when you're programming or designing or anything, especially when you start to work with interaction, make sure something works before you get too far. Okay? Make sure it works. Make sure you typed it right. Make sure your ID is correct. Make sure it's a unique ID. If you put two of these together and only activates the first one, because you're unique, your IDs are not unique. Okay? Your IDs must be unique in order for this to work. So, now we have this. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to say that my checkbox has a class of hidden. Hidden is a great class we can add into our CSS. Let's go into our common.css. Let's go into our small classes, and let's just add a hidden. And hidden is really easy. It's just going to say display none. Boop. Hidden has a display of none. It's a really simple one-off class that we can use. And now, when I save and I refresh, my checkbox is gone, but I know it's there. I know it's there, and I know it works because I checked it first. All right? Don't hide your input before you check that it works. I know that it's there because I was clicking it earlier. I know it was there, so it's just hidden now. Something with display none takes up no space, but it's still there. So now, what can we do? Well, now what we can do is we can design something in our theme.css called a fave. And a fave input that is checked affects the label next to it by making it color red. Now, that's some CSS. You guys remember that page I told you to look at with the CSS selectors? Who read that? Okay, go read that page. Go read that page about CSS selectors that I told you all to read in the very first day of class. Okay? CSS selectors are super important, and it allows you to select a very specific element. This is a fave that has inside of it an input that is checked, and then it is affecting the label that comes after that input when it is checked. We're going to save, and refresh, and now, awesome. By the way, because that heart is not an image, it's an HTML entity, that means it's technically text. It's a letter. And because it's a letter, it's affected by text color. So that means it's affected by color. Which means that we could also go ahead and say that a fave input normally, a fave label normally has a color of, for instance, AAA. There we go. That'll make that color a little bit better. In fact, we could do a lot of other stuff. We could say that the label has a transition, all 0.3 seconds, and now that color change will sort of fade in now. In fact, we could say that it has a transform of none by default, but then that it has a transform scale 1.5, 1.5. That doesn't seem to work at all. That didn't seem to work at all. Oh, I know why. This needs to have a display of inline block. Nice. Nice. Hey, look at that, you guys. We're animating, but we're not animating. We're transitioning. And we've designed a transition that doesn't do anything. No one actually favorited anything. Okay? It doesn't do anything in our we don't have a database. It doesn't do anything in our database. We don't have a user yet. But we have the animation of what it looks like to fave something.
Can you explain inline block? Why you add the inline block?
Scale doesn't work on an inline element. Inline elements are a little bit goofy in what they allow. Inline elements don't acknowledge many transforms. They don't acknowledge height or width, and they don't use padding correctly. Inline elements are just supposed to be text, and they don't do things correctly when it comes to sizes and transforms very well. But inline block takes on the abilities of block, but the size of inline, and so it's allowed to transform correctly, it's allowed to have height and width, and it's allowed to have padding correctly. Any other questions? Cool. Hey guys, notice that if we wanted to, we could have another fave. And this one we could say has a style of font size 2x. Do you think this will work? Don't you look at me like that. Do you think this will work?
No.
Why not? Don't say no without having a reason. Why not? Do you think so? Raise your hand. Who thinks this will work? Raise your hand. Who thinks it won't work? Why?
Not work.
Why won't it work?
Because that is entity.
That'll work. The entity's fine. Oh, you're thinking about all the wrong problems. I focused you in on the font size. Font size will work just fine. You know what won't work? The same ID. I left the ID the exact same when I copied and pasted this. We need a unique ID right here in order for this to work. In fact, I'm going to leave it there and save and refresh. You're going to see that when I try to do this one, it activates the first one. It finds the first element with that ID and it activates that one. So what we need is a unique ID here. You guys got to see the right problems. Font size fun. Any questions? Yes.
Why make it a checkbox? Can you do this without it being under?
How would you do it? You could do it with JavaScript. However, one of the nice things about making this a checkbox is that a checkbox is a form element, which means that this is now genuinely a form element with form data. And if you were trying to make information that was edited by the user or something like that, having this be part of a form is a great way of not having to then apply data in some other way, like check this to see if it's checked or something like that. It's a form element. If the form element is checked, it's part of the form, and the form knows it. It's got an ID, it's got a value. If it was actually being submitted, it would need a name as well. But for right now, that's a genuine form element, so that's a reason to use the checkbox. It also means we don't have to bring JavaScript into this. We don't have to figure out any JavaScript about how this works. All we have to do is have a checkbox there and design the way that works. And the checkbox trick works great for all kinds of things. For instance, I have a whole CodePen series on my CodePen, which is Broncula. You guys, I'm Broncula on every social media. So if you're trying to find me, that's where I am. And on here, I have a collection called CSS navs, and these are all checkbox trick navs. So for instance, this one right here has this design. It's just a checkbox trick. It's all just CSS and a transition, and this label activates the CSS of something somewhere else on the page. And in fact, this background color right here is also a label, and it deactivates the checkbox. And I made a bunch of these for all kinds of different designs. For instance, this one seems the same, but it's a little different. It slides the whole thing over instead of sliding out over. And these kinds of designs are pretty popular concepts, and it's all just checkbox tricks. So all this kind of stuff is possible to be done with just checkboxes. Okay. So now we know that we can use a checkbox to change the CSS of a label. Now, I take that back. We can use a label to activate a checkbox anywhere on the page, and then we can use the checkbox to change the CSS of anything else on the page. Because when the checkbox is checked, any CSS after it or inside of it, well, nothing can be inside of it, so any CSS after it can be affected. And the checkbox can be anywhere, and the label for it can be anywhere. So that means we can have a button over here that activates something over here, because the input is over here and the label is over here. Okay? So let's do something else. Let's go right here. Let's make an H2 that makes something called a toggle, which is a common thing that a lot of designers want to make. And so let's make a card. And inside of this card, let's make a toggle. And inside of this toggle, let's put an input. And it's going to be a checkbox. And it's going to have a class of hidden. And it's going to have an ID of toggle1. And then underneath that, it's going to have a label. And this label is going to be for toggle1. And I'm confident enough now that I'm not going to bother checking this. I'm pretty sure it's going to work. I've got the right ID. I've got the right for. I'm going to straight away hide my thing, and I'm just pretty sure it's going to work. Okay? Now,
I'm going to save, and I'm going to refresh, and nothing shows up. And the reason for that is because I put no content in it, but I did that on purpose. So let's go into our common.css this time. And let's design a common toggle. All right? Our common toggle is going to have a display of inline block. We want to be able to put this toggle sort of anywhere. By the way, do you guys know what the term toggle means? It's a switch, like a light switch, on off. That's a toggle. Okay? Anything that has a, that's a toggle. So a Boolean value of on or off, true or false, that's what a toggle is. Okay? We're going to make our toggle inline block so that it can be placed into any part of our design. At that point, what we're going to do is we're going to make a toggle label have a display of inline block. We're going to make it have a width of 2 ends. We're going to make it have a height of 2 ends. We're going to make it have a background color of, let's say, DDD. And we're going to make it have a border radius of 1m. Oh wait, height 1m, not 2m. There we go. Save. Refresh. We got this. Got a little pill right there. Okay. At that point, what we're going to do is we're going to say that our toggle label after has a position absolute, and that our toggle label has a position of relative. So our label is now a relative parent for our absolute child of after. At that point, we're going to give it a content of this, of an empty string, and then a top of 0, a left of 0, a width of 1m, a height of 1m, and a background color of EEE. Okay, and we're also going to make it a border radius of 1m. Nice. Okay. We're then going to give this a transition all of 0.3 seconds. By the way, if it makes you happier, you can say 300 milliseconds. I just always put 0.3 seconds. And then we're going to target the toggle label after that comes after the toggle input checked. A toggle that has inside of it an input that is checked and that has a label that comes after it that has an after element. Yeah! That's good. We're going to say that that thing has a left of 1m. Can you even see that? It's happening. Maybe what we should do is we should say that this has a height of 0.9m, and that it has a top of 0.05m, and a left of 0.05m. And that if we save that, then it'll like be smaller. Oh, I don't think it's in the right position. I think this needs to be left 1m. Let's try that. Yeah, there we go. That's the right spot. Oh, it's not moving over far enough. I think it needs to move over
1.1m. Yeah, there we go. I don't know if you can tell that. Now it looks like it's inside. Nice, nice, nice. Actually, I'm going to go back up to my CSS thing right here, and I'm going to say that all afters and all befores also have border box assigned to them, box sizing border box. And then I'm going to come back to my toggle, and I'm going to say that this has a border of 1 pixel solid EEE and a color of FFF. Yay! Yay! Should that be opposite? Maybe that should be opposite. Let's try that opposite. Let's make this one FFF and like this one EEE. Is that better?
No.
Jesus, wow! You actually don't like this better? I think it actually shows it better. Okay, fine, cool, whatever. Whatever. We can go back the other way. Let's do this. Let's say the toggle label has an overflow of hidden. And let's say that the toggle after has a box shadow of 1 pixel, 1 pixel. No, 0.2m, 0.2m, 1m, RGBA, 0.2, let's say 2. Save and refresh. And now there's a, it's too much. There's too much. There's too much. Let's do 0.5m. Yeah. Except then, let's say that when it goes back over, then it gets a left of negative. Yeah. Ah, yeah. There we go. Can you see the shadow? Yeah, I like that. I've never done that before. That's cool. I like it. Okay then. Cool. We got a toggle. Hooray! That's it. That's toggle. If you want to see it better, then you can go ahead and make another one, right? We can make a break and then make another toggle. Of course, this one needs a unique ID. But then, for instance, this toggle could have a style of font size 3M or 2M or whatever. Now, this one doesn't exactly line up perfectly anymore. And this is something that you'll actually run into a little bit, is the idea of where these things are actually supposed to be and how they're actually supposed to show up. So we might need to do a little tweaking on these numbers to get them to be more appropriately relative to sizing. I'm not going to do that right now. I think one of the problems here is that I made one single, here, this is pixels. This should probably be 0.2 m's. That way, I meant 0.5 m's. Yeah, that's not bad. There we go. At that point, we could probably start tweaking these numbers a little bit. I didn't make these numbers line up correctly. It was because at the small size, it didn't look like it was lining up correctly. For instance, now it looks like my thing is too far down on the top and not enough down on the left. It looks like they're not lining up right. It seems like this one needs to be even smaller and this one needs to be even smaller. It doesn't seem like it's in the right spot. And that's something that you guys might just need to sit down and figure out for yourself if you want to sit down and ponder the position of where your element is and how to design it appropriately. I'm not going to do that right now. That's something that you guys can sort of ponder over and sift through and try to design it perfectly. But now we have a very common visual element that many websites have, which is a toggle. Okay. More importantly, we learned how to use an after for a design element. That was cute. We learned the fact that you can design anything with this checkbox trick. We could put like 5 other HTML elements inside of that label, and then design all of them inside the label that is next to the input. Because here's the thing, with CSS, if you have elements, you can move down into children, you can move forward into siblings, and you can move forward and down into a sibling's children. But you can't move back. And you can't move up. You can't move back and up, but you can move forward and down. Okay? And so as long as we have something that comes after the checkbox, we can have as many children as we want inside of that element that comes after the checkbox. And maybe the element that comes after the checkbox that has 500 children doesn't have any design, but all its children do. And we can affect all of them. Okay? We can affect all of the children of an element that comes after our checkbox that is now checked or not checked. That, you guys, is the checkbox trick. It allows us to design whatever we want. We could have put an icon in here. We could have put an SVG in there. We could have put any number of other things in there. We could have done whatever we want, and now we can design whatever kind of thing we want on that element. You know, I used to design a perfect one of these. It's frustrating that this one isn't perfect. I wonder I think it's because I'm moving the left. Hold on a second. Let me try something. This actually frustrates me. I'm not going to change the left this time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the transform. Translate x of 1m, and then I'm going to make the natural transform to be 0. Let me try that. How's that work out? Okay. Okay. Let me try this. Back at 1, back at 1, back at 8, back at 8. Well, that looks a lot better at this size, but it doesn't look as good at this size. You know what? I have a real hard time getting these to look good at both sizes. I'll be honest with you. I always have. I've always had a hard time making them look good at both sizes. Maybe that's something you can figure out. Maybe it's something that you just need to design differently for different sizes, but whatever.
Can you change the back color to make it on like the green one?
You could do lots of stuff like that, sure. So for instance, what we're saying is when this is on, then our label has a transition all 0.3 seconds, and our label also then gets a background color of, let's do 090. But then at that point, you're almost talking about a different kind of thing. You can also design your own checkbox. You can design a box that has a check HTML element, HTML entity inside of it, which is one of the HTML entities that you can get out of the HTML entities. So you can make a check mark inside of a box, but you can design your own box and how it looks. So there's a lot of options when it comes to that. You could even, if you were weird, use the like the before and the after to create two elements that animate in and out to form the checkbox. That's what people do when they have those X's that turn into the hamburger menus. The hamburger icon that turns into the X. That's what they're doing. They're designing the element, the before, and the after to be 3 things. They're then hiding one and causing 2 other ones to animate like this. thoughts about our toggles? Or does anyone think that I can explain this better than them so that they'll understand it better? Okay. Remember, if you have questions while I'm doing all this stuff, write down the question, and when I say, do you have questions, ask me your questions. What is overflow control? If we didn't have the overflow there, then what would be happening here is I believe the shadow would be bouncing off. The shadow would actually be going outside of the element. It's showing up more here, but you can actually see the shadow there. So the shadow is overflowing out of the elements, and I didn't want that. I wanted the shadow to be contained within them. Any other questions? Yes?
Why do you set up only left and top?
Whenever you're doing position, so position absolute or position relative or position fixed, you should do a placement, the top, left, bottom, and right. You should do one corner. Generally speaking, this element is being designed from the top left. It doesn't really, this thing is small enough and self-contained enough that it doesn't matter whether it's top or bottom. It does matter whether, it would matter, I could design it from the left or the right, but generally speaking, you only ever design from one corner. But you always want to design from a corner. Whenever you do position absolute, always put a top and a left. But then also, you guys, if you ever do position absolute or fixed, don't do margins anymore. Don't mix margins and placements. So if you're using top and left, don't also do margin left and top. If they're doing the exact same thing, you're just complicating your own math. Because then you're having to do a top and a left and a margin left and top. And so it's weird. Any other questions? Cool. Hey guys, that's a checkbox trick. There's lots of things you can do with the checkbox trick. Like I said, there's lots of other options that we can have inside of our document. Let's just talk about fake interaction right now for half a moment. Last week we made a bunch of navigations in our thing, right? And they all have this, they're all like links that have hashtags in them. And a hashtag link is something that is quote unquote a fake link, but really what it does is making a hashtag link and clicking it for the first time will add a hashtag up into your URL, and it'll then take you up to the top of the page. It'll like sort of refresh the page, but it'll basically look for an ID, find none of them, and so take you back up to the top of the page is what's happening there. If you use a hashtag link and it goes to an ID, it will link into that ID. If you use a hashtag link and there is no ID, such as a blank hashtag, then it will just go to the top of the page. But we can also use this for fake interaction. Let's create the interaction of these links. Let's go ahead and do JavaScript. Let's make a new document. And let's bring some JavaScript into our page. Let's bring some jQuery into our page. Let's make a thing called fake interaction.js. Whoops, I saved that into the wrong spot. Hold on just a second. I did the worst thing ever. Okay, I now have a fake interaction JavaScript file. And you guys, I'm calling this fake interaction because midway through this semester, I want you guys to delete this file. All right? We're going to create a quick fake interaction set of JavaScripts just to see what they might be able to do. And then we don't want to use these for the final. Okay? We're going to create something quick for the midterm because the midterm is way more fake than the final. Our final might have some things that don't fully work, but it's supposed to look like everything is proper and right and works. Our midterm is supposed to be really rough in terms of interaction. In terms of interaction and usability, nothing works. Forms don't work. Nothing happens. It's only one product item. It's all pretty faked up. Okay, the midterm is really, really faked up. The final is supposed to be less faked up. Okay, it's supposed to be really using a real database. It's supposed to be using as much proper JavaScript as we can put into it. It's supposed to look like everything more or less properly works, even though there's still even stuff that's not done and not working. Okay? We're going to make something right now that is going to allow you to fake a bunch of interactions for the midterm, to pump up your midterm, to make your midterm look better. This is good. This allows you to design things, and we're going to try and make them simple and quick so that you can design them. But then we're not going to want to use them for the final, and I just want to say that up front. Okay? We don't want to use this stuff for the final. So let's go ahead and go into our index.html, and since this is just quick and fakey, let's go ahead and bring in two files. Let's bring in a script. The script should be a source of https://code.jquery.com/3.2.1.min.js. Wait, jquery.com/jquery-3. There we go. There it is. That's the link to jQuery. You guys remember jQuery? Say yes. Remember jQuery? Say yes. Boo. If you don't have that link memorized, memorize it. You want to know why? That's not even the current version of jQuery, but it's a lot easier to memorize. 3.2.1. Real easy to memorize. Okay? You should have this link memorized because look how easy it is. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to check anything. Memorize this link. It's simple. Memorize it. At that point, we'll bring in another script. And this one is going to be js/fake interaction.js. And then what we want to do is refresh and just check to see if that worked. Let's go to the console. Let's go to our sources. And we've got our fake interaction and our code.jquery.com. It has loaded in properly. Also, I think I did something wrong here. What did I do wrong here? Oh, this one doesn't have a class. Let's do a class on this. There we go. That's better. Oh, and this isn't in a card. Let's put that in a card. This has nothing to do with anything. I'm just fixing on my page. There we go. Card. Cool. Didn't I fix that in the other one? I did fix that in the other one. Whatever, it's fine. Actually, no, it's not. Hold on. There we go. All right, cool. Awesome. So we've got our files. Our files are loaded. They are loading in. Let's go to our fake interaction.js. And let's bring in jQuery. We're going to make a jQuery document ready file. That's this. Wait for the document to be ready. Now, I'm using an arrow function right there. That's an arrow function. Arrow functions are a way of writing functions. And this is a function being passed into the jQuery method, which will wait until the document is ready before running. This is jQuery. Inside of jQuery, what I can then do is I can make a selection of an element on the page, because I am waiting for the document to be ready before making that selection. So I'm going to go ahead and select all anchors that have an href of hashtag. Hey guys, do you remember I told you to read that page on CSS selectors? Remember how none of you read it? This lets us select all elements on all anchors on the page that have an href of hashtag. So in other words, every fake link, it allows us to select every fake link. Okay? And then we can on-click. We can run a function, and that function can select the event data and do something. Whenever you're trying to test JavaScript or programming, it is always a good idea to simply log yourself out something, and I like to log out honk, just to see if it works. Save, refresh, and if we go into our console, oh man, you guys, I don't think it likes this unless I do this right here. I think I have to put a string around that hashtag. I'm going to save and refresh. Yeah, it likes it better that way. I'm going to go click an anchor, and it should say honk. 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 Every time I click an anchor that has an href hashtag, then it's going to honk. Okay, that's not what I actually want to do. Here's what I want to do. I want to select an anchor that just got clicked, and I want to do something called e.prevent_default. Now, the default action of an anchor is to navigate. I want to turn that off. I don't want this anchor to navigate. This is a fake anchor. I want this fake anchor to not navigate. E, in this case, is the event data that got passed into this function. When the click happened, it passed data into my function, and I named it E. E for event data. Okay? In this case, I named it E. E stands for event. The event has a method applied to it called prevent default. So I'm preventing the default action of this anchor. So now, when I save and I refresh and I click a link, it doesn't navigate. It doesn't go back up to the top of the page. Before it was always going to the top of the page, now it doesn't. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing. The lexical this of the function I just typed is the object that called this function. The object that called this function is its lexical this, and the this of this function was the anchor that got clicked. I'm then going to go up to the parent of that element. That's going to be the li. Okay? I am then going to add class active to that element. And then I'm going to go to its siblings, and I'm going to remove class active. And if you guys don't know how to write this, you should all learn how to write it today, because this is one of the best things you can do for yourself, is learning to write this small code right here. This lets you create the fake interaction of anchors on your page. And I'm going to save, and I'm going to refresh, and now I can switch which of my links is active, and to see what that interaction would look like and that change would look like if this was a dynamic front-end page, or simply to see what it would look like if a different one was active. Because it's possible you guys aren't going to make a front-end interactive design this time, but at least this is a way of faking what that would look like if you had an interactive element on your page. Question? Yes?
What is the name of that CSS selector page that you asked us to read?
I just said search for CSS selectors, and I told you to go to the MDN website, the Mozilla Developer Network. If you just type in CSS selectors, W3 Schools has huge SEO, and they're going to be the first one. I don't like their page. I have no necessarily problem with them. I don't like that page that they do. I like the MDN one. The MDN web page is a better one that I like. But honestly, any page that just lists through all the CSS selectors and helps you learn them is what you should do. Questions? Any other questions? Okay. We're going to take a break right now. And we're going to take a break for 15 minutes. And when we come back, we're going to try to make a fake cart. A fake cart. Now, not an actual fake cart, just like a fake add to cart. We're going to make a fake add to cart. Try to do that. Okay? 15 minutes. Don't be late. gonna delete almost all of this stuff. And inside of here, we're going to have okay, so we got a container right here. We're gonna switch this up with a flex child. And then right here, we're gonna have a nav.nav.flex none, which inside of it has a ul dot flex parent. Actually, no, we'll just call this a nav pills, and then we'll make this a ul that inside of that has an li times 3 greater than anchor href equals hashtag greater than link. Alright, cool. Save. And let's go over to the product item dot html. We got a thing inside of here. What did we just make? So we have a nav pills, we've got a flex child, we got a container. Let's come up here to this container, let's make that a flex parent. Save, refresh. Alright, so we got some links over here. Let's make a nav pills inverted. Nav pills. So when I mouse over it, it looks like that. That's not right. So I want a nav pills inverted, which is going to have a color of carrot, and then when it's hovered, it's going to have a color what did we say? Nav dark and a background color of, did we make a color white? We did make a color white. Let's do color white. Color white. What happened? Why didn't that work? Because I didn't make the nav pills inverted. So let's make the nav pills inverted. Aha! Nope, that's not working. Why is that not working? Let's see here. Nav pills a hover as. No, I got those backwards. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So now we got some links on this page. Okay. We're gonna change these links to be something really simple like home, products, and cart. We might even do something like about. Save, refresh. Cool. We got our products. Excellent. Awesome. There we go. We're going to do something just really simple now, which is to say that in our theme.css, I'm going to go ahead and say that at media max width, let's say, let's go to our grid. Let's do this at 600 pixels. We'll do a max width of 600 pixels. We'll say that a nav bar flex parent has a display of block. So now when we go down small enough, whoops, hard reload, we should get something like this. So our thing breaks down like this. And let's say that also our nav bar UL has the exact same thing. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so when we're up here, we got this. When we're down here, we got this. You know what? That's the least amount of responsiveness we should do. At least now our design can't necessarily break. It's not super effective right now because it's going to be huge. Maybe we should also say that our nav bar anchors have a padding or no, have a line height of 1.5 m. There we go. That brings our anchors up nice and better inside there. Cool. That's better. So now we got this up here, we got this down here. Not too bad. A tiny bit of responsiveness, just enough so that we can feel good about ourselves in the morning. We should probably also hide this or something like that, but for right now, this is good enough for us. Okay? All right. Should we design a hide for that? Should we design a menu button, like a hamburger button? Should we design one of those? I'm not going to design a good one. I'm going to design a quick one. Okay. Okay. Let's make a real quick thing, and let's say that here. Yeah, here's what we'll do. We'll go in here and we'll come to right before our nav, and we'll put an input with a class of checkbox and a type of checkbox, a class of hidden, and a ID of nav menu. We'll then put a label that is for the nav menu. And then inside of that label, we'll put an and equiv. That'll give us a nice hamburger button. What we'll then do is we will say that on normally a nav menu label has a display of none, but then at the small size it gets a display of block. So what that means is that at the large size it's not there, and at the small size it is. We're going to delete this thing for right now because we're going to do something else. We're going to save, we're going to refresh. Okay, so now we've got this layout. Okay, here's what we want. Our nav bar flex parent gets a flex wrap of wrap, and our nav bar nav gets a width of 100%. All right. What that's done is it's made sure that at the smaller size, our nav bar nav breaks down to a new row, but at the big size it's still normal, okay? Then we're going to say that it also has a display of block. Whoops, no, that's going to be the nav bar UL gets a display of block. So save and refresh. Okay, so we now have a button over here, and we have our links down here. At that point, what we're going to say is that actually it has a display of none, but that then when the nav bar, when the nav menu is checked, then the nav that comes after it, its UL gets a display of block. That means by default, the nav menu is hidden, display none, and when we click this, it becomes blocked. That is the quickest one I can make. Okay? Now right here, we do have something weird going on where this has some padding over here, and then this is only clickable right there. So let's just make that thing have a nav menu design. The nav menu label has a display of none, and then when it gets bigger, it gets a padding of 0 and 1M. And that's just gonna give it a bigger clickable area. When you mouse over it now, it's got a bigger clickable area, so it can be activated a little bit better. You can mess with that on your own. You might want to even say that this is one REM and that it has a font size of 1.5 M. So that's a little bit bigger, so you can see it better, click it better. Cool. All right. That was a really quick, responsive nav menu. It's not the best. It doesn't animate. It's not cool, but it works. All right. And ultimately, that's pretty good. This could still use some more work. Like for instance, on the small size, I think this nav bar could have a padding on the bottom when this is open, or maybe like this UL, once it becomes display block, gets a padding bottom of 1M to just space that out a little bit better inside of that spacing. Nice. Okay, so we now have our navigation. Hey guys, have you opened your website up on your phone?
Yes.
Did it work?
No.
Was everything perfect? I just want to remind you that if something doesn't work on the mobile, you fix it. If something's broken on the mobile, you figure it out, or you come into workshops, or you ask me, or you schedule time. Okay? Or you go to a study group and you help each other and you figure it out. But on your midterm, there should be no responsive issues. Everything should work. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. You'll be graded on a scale of does it work versus is it broken. Okay? But, you know, you should be looking at it on a phone, not just on the emulator, on your phone. Open it up on your phone, look at it on your phone, make sure that it actually works. Okay? Okay, so we've got this, and then inside of this page, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say that we have a container, and then we have a card, and inside of that card, we have a row. And that row has, what did we do for our grid? We said we had gap, large, and small. So we've got a gap, we're just going to do a regular gap. And then inside of that row, we're going to do a call XS12 and a call MD4. And then we're going to duplicate that, but the other one is going to be 8 this time. So we're going to have, actually we're going to do that the other way. We're going to go 7 and 5. I like that better. There we go. We got 7 and 5. And then inside of here, we're now going to make that this is we're going to make a class called product item. And then in here, we're going to have a product image main, and that's going to have an image with a source of https://via.placeholder.com/600 by 500. Let's just see what we've got there. Cool. We got a nice card. Let's put a class of media image on there. Save, refresh. Now our image makes sure that it sort of fits inside of its space. cool. There we go. We're going to go ahead and say that there is a product thumbs. And inside of there, we're going to make a image with a source. Actually, no. We'll just do a bunch of these. That have actually, fuck it. We'll just do that. Save, refresh. Okay, we got a bunch of those. And now we're gonna say that in our theme, we've got a product thumbs image as a max height of 5M. Okay, cool. So we got our images. Awesome. Is this starting to look like a layout some of you want? Okay. Understand that it is relatively easy to lay stuff out with the tools we've done. I had to do one small bit of CSS right now. Everything else, okay, first of all, I had to make my thing work. But now that I'm laying out my page, it's just reusing the stuff that we've already used, right? It's just reusing the concepts that we've already got. We've got our layout concepts. We've got our flexbox. We've got our grid. We've got all that stuff. We use it where we need it, okay? At that point, then, I'm going to say that looks like that. Cool. It flexes around. I'm just checking it as I go along. I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to come in here. And I'm going to say that we've got an H2 that says product. And then we'll have a div that says class equals product name. And then we've got a class that equals product price, and we'll say that that is dollar monies, and then we'll say that there's a div called product description. That is going to have inside of it a paragraph that says, paragraph times 3 greater than long 20. Save, refresh, we got something like this, we got a layout, we got a page, we got something that we can work with, not too bad, okay? This is one of those things where this is what you should have been doing this week, is just trying to deal within your design spec, and whenever you need to, add some design, but you're not trying to do something unique every single page, you're trying to work within a design that you're setting up. That's the idea behind this. Now you want to pick the colors that make you happy. If you want something that has no color breaks, then you just design that inside of your, for instance, nav bar, or inside of your header, or inside of your card. If you want a card that is like inverted and dark instead of light, or something like that, that's what you design, right? But a card is a very common design element, a nav bar is a very common design element, and all that kind of stuff. And I did all of this, and I haven't even made that card yet. All right? But this is what you should have been doing all week. Is this what you were doing? Hopefully you were doing this instead of going, how do I make something that's totally different? Because you don't want to make something that's totally different. You want to reuse as much as you can, because that makes you fast. That makes you effective as a designer, to be able to just say, boop, 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 here's your prototype. That's what it should be. Okay? So, we've got a product here. It breaks down well enough so that it works kind of on mobile. Honestly, changing size like this is not a great idea. You should probably actually be showing it as a phone size so that you can see what it looks like, so that you can see if, for instance, you want all this spacing on mobile. Is that actually how you want that to be? That's quite a lot of spacing right there. Maybe you want to break down some of that spacing on mobile. That's up to you. How does this look when it works? Okay, that still works. Cool. It changes the layout of the page, which is a little weird, but I'm going to allow it for now. Okay. Okay. Add a card. Hey guys. It's going to be your first instinct when you make a page like this to add a button like this and be done. Your first instinct on a page like this should be to add a button and go, ugh. And then to design what buttons look like on your page. Now, I actually think that it's worth designing what buttons work with a class and to leave the default buttons. Maybe not, maybe that's up to you. Maybe you want to just design what all buttons look like by default. I actually think that buttons are one of those things that are unique enough in certain situations that having a default button is nice, and that or maybe even like just remove all design from a button by default so that you can move forward in the future. That's up to you. For right now, I'm going to do something really, really simple to, for instance, anything in my common, because this is something that I kind of want all buttons to look like. I think I just want to design the way all buttons look. I'm going to design the way a dot button looks. And a dot button has a border radius of like 3 pixels. It has a border width of 0. I'm just going to turn off the border. It has a background color of, I'm going to give it a really generic color. I'm just going to say that it has a var color gray light. I'm going to say that it has an outline of 0. And I'm going to say that it has a color of in white, maybe? No, we'll try black. We'll try black. No, you know what? Yeah, no, black. We'll give it a font of inherit, and we'll give it a, yeah, save, refresh, hard reload, and then let's go to our HTML and let's add a class of button. And now we have a button. I'm going to go ahead and say that this also has a padding of 0.2m, 0.5m, and then it has a width of 100%. Boom, there we go. Button. Nice button. Good button, fills the space. It's almost always better to have a button that fills the space than have a button that's sized a particular way. It's better for you to size the space the button is in rather than size the button itself. Okay? I personally feel that way. You might decide differently. But generally speaking, it's probably better to design the space the button is in rather than the size of the button. It's basically, you should have 2 types of buttons. One is a button that is its size, so the size of its content, the size of its text, or you have a button that fills the space, a full width button. And then if you want it to be smaller, you put it in a smaller space, maybe inside of a column or something like that, which is what we're doing here. Putting it inside of a column, it is smaller. At that point, there's other things to consider, like maybe this particular div needs a little bit of margin on it, just to space it away. There we go. Now that button is nice and spaced away, and we've got a nice add to cart button. Whew! All right, we have designed our button. Does anyone have any questions for me right now?
Just a quick question. You said how to find the symbol of like the label, like the number you use for the hamburger, the icon.
Well, I showed you guys that page. You search for HTML entities, and there is a w3c.org page that has a list of all of them in a nice format. So, entities, HTML entities, HTML entities, like that. And then this W3 character entity reference chart from the w3.org. That's that chart. And then inside of here, you can sort of search for something. Like if you search for a triangle, you can like search for words that have triangle and then try to find a triangle that matches what you want. Okay. We want to be able to add to our cart. But we don't actually have a cart yet. I don't even have a cart yet. And we don't really have any sort of database or anything like that. We don't have any real data. So let's just add the interaction of adding to the cart. What does it look like when we add to the cart? We're going to do something really easy. We're going to add what's called a badge. Do you guys know what a badge is in design terms? This is something you should know. Does anyone know what a badge is in design terms? Yes. Say it out loud with words. Use your words.
Badging, the kind of mark that I want to remember.
You did it better with your hands.
Or a pitch.
A badge, in design terms, is the little white circle that has a number inside of it that says how many notifications you have on an app. That's a badge. Okay? So that little circle, that little white circle with the number of, you know, all of you on your phones with the email that says 500,000. That's a badge. So we're gonna make one of those. So let's design it first. You know, you've actually seen me do this a bunch of times. So let's design that. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let's do one thing else first. Let's go back up here to our big image that we made earlier.
Did you refresh the page?
Huh?
Did you refresh the page?
I saved.
What is the address for this? I am here, but I can't find it.
It was called product item. Oh, wait, hold on. You guys, I gave it a dash. That seems like a bad idea. Let me rename that right now. Underscore. That's the name I actually want. There you go. My bad. Sorry about that. Okay, here's the URL. It's called productitem.html. That's fair. I forgot I made a new page. Okay. All right, let's come back up here. Let's do something where we've got, let's say, and text equals product 1, and then let's do product 2, product 3, product 4. Save, refresh. Now we got a bunch of images that all say product 1, product 2, product 3, product 4. Let's just make this work, because why not? Because fuck it, let's make some fake interaction. If a product thumbs, did I say thumbs or thumb? Thumbs. Image is on mouse enter, run a function, grab the event, and then what we want is to find the product main image, and we want to change its attr source to equal this thing's attr, actually no, just this thing's source. Yeah! Yeah! That didn't work. Why didn't it work? On mouse enter, function, product thumbs image. Is that what that's called? Is that a product thumbs image? Product thumbs image. Product image main. Image main. Ha ha! Yeah! Yeah, there we go. Now it's switching out the main image with our product image. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Nice. Simple JavaScript, you guys. Simple interactions. Really simple interactions. In fact, that one's done. That's not even fake. That's the real thing. Okay. So, now that we've got that, let's go back up to our navigation menu, and let's go back up to our cart. Okay, on our cart, we need to change this a little bit. So, how are we going to do that? Well, right now, you guys, up in our navigation, we have this section right here that looks like this, okay? And what I want to do is I want to break down this cart a little bit, and I want to put this cart text right here inside of a span, and then I want to put some more text inside of another span. And we're going to call this span a class of badge, cart badge. Actually, no, I don't like that. We'll call it badge, and we'll call this class equals badge parent. That's what we'll do. That's better. And we'll call this cart badge. There we go. Okay, so we got some generic classes and a specific class. All right. Actually, we'll call it badge card. That's better. That's better. That's BEM. Block is badge. Modifier is, or element is card. That's better. I like that better. Okay, so we got an A badge parent. We got a badge, and then we got a. This one is the badge card. Okay. Save. Refresh. Nothing happens. Okay. So what we need is to design what a badge looks like. Well, what does a badge look like? A badge has a position of absolute. And in order to do that, we're going to probably need a badge parent to have a position of relative. Okay? In order for us to make a position absolute child, we need a position relative parent. So then inside of there, we're going to do a top of 5 pixels and a right of -5 pixels. And then we're going to do a font size of 0.5 ems, a background color of white, a width, no, not a width, a padding of 0, no, padding of 0.2 m, 0.5 m, and then save and refresh. We got a tiny little thing up here. Let's put some text inside of there. Let's put a 0 inside of that badge. Save, refresh, and we get something like this. Ah! Okay, so let's come back over here. Let's say that it has a line height of 1 m, and let's say that it has a border radius of 1 m. Ha! There we go. All right, it's got a little badge going on. Let's give it a color of black. All right, we got a badge. Let's just test out what it looks like with a bigger number. 1099. Save and refresh. We got a badge like that. Cool. Not bad. I like it. Let's consider that done-ish. So let's do one more thing. Let's remove our badge content, and then let's come back in here and let's say that a badge that is empty has a padding of 0. Actually, no. Let's just say it has a display of none. A badge that is empty has a display of none. It doesn't show at all. Okay. Let's go back to our JavaScript. We saw a badge that's good. We saw a badge that's gone. We know we designed it right. Okay? So, we finished up all of our we thought of all of the interactive ways that we could design it. We added too much content. We made sure that the text flowed naturally. It could possibly be that we need to realign the text so it's in the center of the space, but that's a different issue. Okay? Right now what we've got is we've got something that we can move forward with and actually add JavaScript interaction. So, let's select what? Well, what do we have that can be clicked? Well, we have a button that isn't very unique. So let's make a button. Let's take our button and let's say that it has a class of fake add to cart. A class of fake add to cart. In fact, we'll call it JS fake add to cart, just in case. JavaScript fake add to cart. We know that this is a class that has nothing to do with CSS because it says JS on it. This is a JS hook. Okay? We know it's fake, so we're going to change it in the future. This thing is a short, temporary, fake interaction. Okay? This is one of those things that we're giving ourselves a bunch of future help so that we know how to fix things, hopefully, in the future. Because right now, the badge works. However it gets data is irrelevant. So right now, we can fake giving it data because it will just look like it's working. But then we can change the way it interacts later because we know that this one is a fake add to cart. So we'll save that. We're going to go back in here. Now we have something to select. So we'll select our JS fake add to cart. That was a lot, but that's okay. On, click, do what? Well, first of all, let's go ahead and e.prevent default, just in case. I don't know what I want to do in the future, but I know that this is fake, and I want to not do whatever it's supposed to do. I want it to only do what I want it to do. Okay? At that point, let's see if it even fucking works. Okay? Refresh, console, honk. Cool, it's working. Our JavaScript is working, it's looking good. We know how to test. Everybody, write down a note right now. Test your JavaScript. Alright? Just test to see if you selected the thing right. I can't tell you how many of you students frustrate me by saying, it doesn't work. Well, did you test it? No, it just doesn't work. Have it tell you something. If it doesn't tell you something, that means so first of all, if it says an error, that's a different problem. If it doesn't do anything, that's a different problem. You didn't select the right thing. You got the name wrong. Those are common things, right? Okay, so we know it's working. Yeah. So what do we want to do? Well, I think what we want to do is we want to let a variable equal n for number. And we're going to go out onto the document and find our badge cart badge. That was our unique badge, right? We had a badge parent that was generic. We had a badge that was generic. We had a really unique class called badge cart. And that's going to allow us to select the badge that's inside of the badge cart. Okay? At that point, we're going to get its inner HTML. And let's console log that. Save, refresh, click the button. It shows nothing. There is nothing inside of there right now. Okay? So now, let's show not the badge cart. That shows true. See, interestingly enough, the content of the badge was empty. And empty is a falsy value, and the falsy value turned into a not is true. A value that is technically false, if it's knotted, if show me not that. Not false is true. And that's what we just did. We just made this not false is true. Okay? We're then going to say +0. Save, refresh. That gave us 1. That's weird. I don't like that. Let's try that differently. Let's try +n. This is a unary operator that basically says, take this n, which is a string, and see if it's a number. And if it's anything like a number, make it a number. Well, if it's false, if it's falsy, it should be like the number 0. And that means we should see the number 0. Ooh, interesting, interesting. Okay, so we're casting from any falsy value to a true. But technically, we're also going to cast from a string to a number. So that's going to get us an n. And so what we're going to do is we're going to unary the value that we get from the badge. Okay? We're going to add that plus right there, and it's going to turn that n number into a number. And then what we're going to say is that the badge cart HTML equals n plus 1. Save, refresh. Refresh, it's gone. It's fake, right? We're faking the interaction of adding to the cart. But now we have what it looks like to have something in our cart. Now, by the way, my cart design doesn't exactly do this very well, but whatever, you can work with that on your own. It's possible that what I should say is that my badge has a border of 1 pixel solid and color gray dark. That won't even show up at first, but as soon as you mouse over, then it keeps the badge visible with a little circle around it. That's cute. Not bad. Thoughts? Questions? Ideas about life? How are we doing? Did we do good? We made a fake cart. Did we make a cart? No. We made a fake add to cart. That's what we did. We made a fake add to cart, right? It isn't a fake cart because we didn't even touch the cart. And in fact, we don't need to, right? Now, what else can we do? What other kind of interaction can we do that we can show? My problem at this point is this. If I show you anything else, it's just going to show up in a bunch of students' projects. I have a couple of ideas that I can show you that I don't want to show up in everybody's projects. It might work for yours. It might not. But let's try it. See how it feels. See what we like. If we like it, we'll use it. If we don't, we won't. Okay? So, just want to. The better examples I give you guys, the more that's all you guys do. So I avoid giving you guys good examples so that you won't just do my examples. But I also like to give you guys good examples because then you can see how some of that stuff was made. So I just want to be clear, I'm not telling you to do this. It won't work for everybody's design. You guys really made me gun shy with that first couple assignments where everybody just did my example and turned it back in. All right? Don't do that again. But if this works for you, make it work for you. Okay? Let's go to our product item right here and let's make a product list.html. Just gonna make a product list.html. I'm gonna go back up to my menu and say that there's now a product list.html right here. And that this also goes to product list. Product list.html is where that goes. So if I save and refresh, I can now go to my product list, which is the exact same page right now. So let me just delete all of that content. Alright, so I now have a container right here. And in this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a product list. And inside of that product list, I am going to, on that product list, I'm going to make a row that is going to have a gap. And then we're going to make a column small 6, nope, extra small. We're going to make a column medium 4. And a call large 3. We're going to make 16 of those, just for kicks and giggles. And then we're going to, inside of there, make a card. And inside of there, we're going to make a that card is also going to be a product item. Inside of that product item, we're going to make a product image. And inside of there is going to be an image with a source of https://placeholder.com/400. We're then going to wrap that product image up in a parentheses, so that next to that product image we can have a product description, and then inside of there we can have a product name that says product $, and then we're going to wrap that up in a parenthesis because next to that we can have a product price, and inside here we're going to say that this is dollar. We'll just say 200. We'll just say 20. And then wrap that up in a parenthesis, and then we'll try that. Hey guys, remember when I said that this was too much Emmet? Technically, this is too much Emmet to try and come up with on your own until you've actually done this 500 times. But now, this is going to give me a shitload of HTML right off the bat. Hopefully, this just gave me a whole... Why is my mini-map off? There we go. Lots of HTML. Save. Go, refresh, and now we have something like this. Cool. We have a product with a bunch of cards. I'm going to undo that, though, and I'm going to make sure that my product image is also a media image, just right off the bat. There we go. All right, cool. Bunch of products. Excellent. Here we go. Wow, that looks, there we go. That's products. Excellent, that's a product list. I didn't design anything new. I also didn't design it. I think I still need to go into this and like tweak some of the things. I gave myself a whole shitload of classes though, didn't I? I gave myself a bunch of classes that are namespaced and prepped for using. I also gave myself a single parent class around this whole thing called product list. It doesn't affect anything right now, but since I have a bunch of things that are already called like product name on the other page and product price on the other page, that it's nice to have something on this one where I can say product list, product name, product list, product price, okay? And that just means that I can now design this page a little bit more uniquely while still using the exact same class names that I'm using on another page so that they can have similar things, like maybe they have the same color but a different size on the different pages, right? And again, we don't think of them as pages, we think of them as components. This one is the product list, that one's the product item. This one still has product items, but these are product items inside of the product list. Cool. We got an image, or we got a bunch of things there. Awesome, great, excellent. Let's make another one of these. Let's make another one. Let's make 2 product lists. You might be thinking to yourself, why? And I say to you, because I want. Let's make this one not be cards. Let's make this one be overlay. Product overlay is what we're going to call this. We're going to call this a product overlay. We're going to save and refresh. And now we have, oops. Hold on. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so we've got one that's inside of cards, and we've got one that's not inside of cards. Excellent. We've also got something where I'm not entirely certain. By the way, did we even check our responsiveness? Let's see our responsiveness. We've got 4 columns, we got 3 columns, we got 2 columns, and we got 2 columns all the way down. That's our design. Okay? 4 columns, 3 columns, and then 2 columns as we get down. So it should generally keep our items relatively the same size as we move down into different sizes. Okay? And then at that point, what we want to do, we want to look at this structure that we actually just made. Okay, so we've got a product overlay, we've got a product image, and inside of there we have an image that is a particular size, and it is taking up all of our space, and then we have gaps in between them. So at that point, what we want to do is we want to go to our product description, and we're going to make a product description that is inside of a product overlay. A product description that is inside of a product overlay is going to have a position of absolute. It's going to have a top of 0 and a left of 0. And suddenly all of our product descriptions are over here. Why? All of you should know the answer by now. Why are they all over there? I gave them top left. Why are they up there instead of where they're supposed to be?
Absolute.
I gave them absolute. Why are they up there instead of where they're supposed to be? I didn't give them a parent that has position relative. A parent needs a positioning in order for them to be positioned to it. Okay? So, I need to go to the product overlay and say that it has a position of relative. Now all of those texts are relative to the overlay. Okay? Let me just make sure that this is coming into my stuff. Now you guys, I don't know that this stuff is necessarily common. I'm going to throw this into my theme. I think this is theme stuff. We're getting into some really specific stuff for this theme. So I'm going to come in here and then come over here. And we're going to add this stuff over here. And then we're going to make a width of 100%, a height of 100%, a background color of RGBA 0000.6. Okay, refresh. There we go. Okay, cool. Excellent. Interesting. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to say that these also have a display of flex and a and align items of center and a justify content of center. We're going to save, and we're going to refresh. Now all our text is in the center. Notice that it laid them out, they were 2 rows and now they're a single row. It's because we just made it flex, right? Let's make sure that we have a flex direction of column. There we go. Product 20. Excellent. So now we have a nice little overlay. Cool. Let's go back to our overlay. It's got a position of relative. Let's give it also an overflow of hidden. And then let's say that our product descriptions have a transition of all 0.3 seconds, which is our favorite transition time. We can make an argument about transition times if you guys ever want to have a talk about it. But general wisdom in UX and UI design is that anything longer than 300 milliseconds is visibly slow. And anything shorter than 150 milliseconds is too fast to notice. It's like 2.5 frames of time versus having like 5 frames of time. And so generally speaking, 300 milliseconds is like the timing for UI animations or UI transitions. Okay? Whenever you have UI transitions, 300 milliseconds is the general amount of time that you want. Okay? So we now have a transition on there. We're going to give it a transform, translate, and I'm just going to do Y right now, and I'm going to do 100%. I'm going to save, I'm going to refresh, and my text is gone. Or is it? Technically, my text is all still here. It's that I'm actually seeing the product description here for this one. It's moved down 100%. But because my overlay has overflow hidden, it's just blocked. It's disappeared. Okay? It's below my image, but it's still on the page. It's just hidden. It's overflow hidden. Okay? At that point, what we're going to do is we're going to say that when a product overlay is hovered, the product description will change. And that will get a transform, translate of 0.
we can do lots more stuff with this. There's a lot more interesting things we can do with this. For instance, we could also say that a product overlay hover product image changes a little bit. Like for instance, we can say that the product image gets a transform scale of 1.2, 1.2. We could then say that the product image has a transform scale of 0, 0 and a transition all 0.3 seconds. Ah! Oh no, it's got a scale 0, 0. Who did that? That seems like a bad idea. 1, 1 is the better idea. So what you can actually see is the image is actually scaling up ever so slightly as we mouse over things. It's hard to see because it's just gray and the text, but it's happening. If we had a better image here, the image would be scaling up. Here, I can make it better. We'll just make it bigger. It'll just be not as, it'll be too much. 1.5 is way too much. But now you'll see that it's actually scaling up the image as we mouse over. So this is a nice effect when you're mousing over a product that has a full covered image. Allows you to hover over it and it allows it to zoom in and then something to come up over it.
And how does the mouse hover thing works on the phone?
Say that again.
The mouse hover thing. How
There
does
is
it-
no hover on phone. You would need to undo this on phone.
Okay.
You would need to undo this. This is one of the reasons that I kind of avoid. I haven't taught this in a couple of semesters. You guys, you have to undo this on phone. So you basically have to undo everything, make the text go down below back to where it was kind of on the card on mobile, because mobile has no hover, and actually it's undiscoverable then on mobile. So you don't necessarily want to do that. Now, we're not done though. Okay. Let's come back over to this product list and let's make a couple more changes. First of all, I'm going to come back into this image and say question mark text equals product dollar, just so we can see that better. And I'm also going to come in here and I'm going to say that the product description has inside of it a card, but then inside of that has our product name and our product price. Okay? Save that, refresh, and now, wow, that's weird. Oh, that's super weird. Why did that happen? Hold on. Hover. That's there. That's there. Why is that? What? Does the card do something weird? Huh. What? Okay, hold on. I did something where I made a display of flex and I did a flex direction of column. Yeah, if I take off the flex direction column, it fixes it. Okay, let's remove that. So if I do this, then we're going to remove the flex direction column for right now. There we go. Okay, we're back. All right, we're back. Now, so now I have a card that is now visible. The reasoning for this being my text was completely unusable, right? It's possible I could have made it white, but it's also possible that I should have some sort of more usable content in front of the thing. So let's do actually something a little bit different. Let's do this. Now that we have a card in this design, and by the way, this hasn't affected this at all, right?
let's come back over here and let's say that the product image still scales, but that the product description actually doesn't translate Y. What it does is we're going to say that the product description card actually has that transform translate. And then we're going to do this. We're going to say that our description is going to instead change its opacity to 1, and it's going to get an opacity of 0. And then we're going to say that our product overlay product description card is going to get the or the transform translate 1. We're going to say that it doesn't translate to 100%. No, actually, yes we will. Refresh. Why is the background not translating? I took off the transition, say refresh, ha 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 ha, that's even better, ha 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 ha, yeah! Okay, you guys, we are this close to having too much animation on the screen. We're getting to the point where it's nearly distracting. And this is something to think about when you're designing your stuff, is have I gone too far? It is an important concept, like is it too distracting? Did I need it to be that dark? Do I need it to be that far of an animation? Should it be shorter? Should it be smaller? Should it be quicker, right? All of this stuff is something to think about when you are adding interaction to an element. Is someone just going to fuck around with this for an hour instead of actually doing what I want them to do? Is this in the purpose of getting them to buy my stuff? And at the moment, I think we are just on the cusp. We're just on the cusp of too much. And this is a place that you all need to realize you're at when it happens. Is when you're designing something with interaction, which can be a lot of fun, you can suddenly be designing stuff that are flying all over the place and zooming into the screen, and it's like you're not actually, this isn't an art piece, this is an e-commerce store. We can make it fun, we can make it interesting, we can make it cool to look at, but we also want to make sure that we're selling something and that everything we do moves the customer forward to giving us money. And, just something to think about, something to ponder. Anyone have any thoughts about that? No? I see I've lost you all. Yes?
I have a question about the cart page.
About the cart page. What about it?
So like if you put like item like for items as price, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you add up like that only column?
JavaScript.
It's just
And
JavaScript.
appropriate class names. So what you guys saw me do, and you saw me do it, and I did it on purpose, is that I broke up that cart into really specific, separate, individual spans. And that span for the text, or the span for the number, only had the number inside of it. That's all it had. There was a very specific span with a very specific name, and it just had a number inside of it. So what you might want to do on your cart is have something where every place that has a number has the number inside of a span and like a dollar symbol outside that number, because the dollar is not a number, right? So the number is inside of one span with a very specific class name so that you can grab them all. Technically, you don't care which one is which when you're adding them up. You just care that you get all the numbers, right? At that point then, you'd also need a very specific span around the amount of items. So there's 4 at $5, that's $20. You then have to add up the total in this row, and then you have to add up all of the totals and add them to the total. Right? There's the row total, and there's the page total. So, but you would do it with a span around the numbers so that you could access all of those numbers and then get all of their values, and then loop through them, and then add them all up, and then add those all to your page. Which, by the way, for all time, I have, or so far in every semester. There's no call to action here. Is it a button? Is that a button or a card? It's not clear to the user. They're going to think that's a button. Make sure that there's a distinction between a card and a button. Okay? If there is a call to action, make sure that's a button. Okay? Make sure that it's clear how to interact with this element. Make sure what they're supposed to do from here. This design has problems. I am not giving to you this. I'm not giving you this as if it's perfect. It's not. I'm giving you this so that you can think about ways to utilize the concepts we've had. We've now seen overflow hidden being used a number of times to hide stuff that's gone and then show it when it's there. We saw fake interactions with our checkbox trick, and all of you need to go explore the checkbox trick and perhaps make your own checkboxes this semester. Okay? Anyone have any questions for me right now? Well, we have like 15 minutes. Is there any other kind of interaction that someone thinks I can teach in 15 minutes that they would like to learn about?
Can you do like make the background color like gradient, like transparent to gray and half size of the original picture?
What?
I mean,
Say it again.
Can you make the
Wait, are you talking about here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm here.
Can you make the background like gradient?
Originally,
No, when hover.
on hover, you want the background to be a gradient. Sure.
And also half size.
Half size? Jesus Christ. Sure. So for instance, yeah. Hold on. Jesus fucking Christ, where is Jesus, there's a lot of products here. Hold on a sec. Let me ponder this for half a second. Okay, we got a card here. What we want is, instead of a card, we want a drawer. We got an image, we got a media image, we got our and text equals product dollar. Can I get a fucking dollar here? I wonder if that'll work. Does that work? That does work. Awesome. Okay, we got our product description, we got our image, we got a thing, we got a thing. Yep. Save, cancel, refresh. We got a thing here. Okay. Let's go back over to our theme. We now have a product drawer. Has a overflow hidden and a position relative. We've got a product drawer, product description, has a position absolute, a bottom 0, a left 0, a width 100% and a height 50%, and a background image of linear gradient 2 top purple to red. Okay. Then that has an opacity, no, it has a transition all 0.3 seconds. It has a transform, translate, 100%, translate Y, 100%, so it moves down. And then when a product drawer is hovered, then the product description is going to get the translate Y of 0. I mean, that needs work, but that's the idea. We could then take these two colors and make them exactly the colors that we want. And if we need to see them a little bit better, we can even go to a product drawer and keep its hover on so that we can see the colors just a little bit better as we're making them. And of course, if we want to, we can also change this to RGBA and set the transitional color to 0 RGB so that it then has an overlay on it. And then we can say that this thing also has a display of flex, a flex direction of column, a align items of center, and a justify content of center, and a color of white. No, I lost my color. Damn it. This one is RGBA 0. Yeah, there you go. Cool, there we go. I assume that sounds like what you wanted? Good enough? I think you can go far, you can go from there.
So in the single product page,
Hold on just a second. You're not supposed to put that in your midterm, but that's a start if you want to go further. Yes?
in the single product page, I want the user can choose the amount of the product they want to buy. So I design a minus button, and there's an input box, and there's a plus button. So if they click the plus button, so the number will goes up.
Okay, you guys. We have a thought. Hey, by the way, I am going to go ahead and say that all of these right here are, I'm going to say that all of my items here are anchors. Is this going to work? Fuck. That is not going to work. Shit. Fuck it, I'll just do it on this top one. I still got that one. Oh no! Okay, good. I'm gonna go here to this product item, this product drawer product item, and I'm gonna say that it's an anchor. I'm gonna make the whole item an anchor. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm gonna put an anchor around. I'm going to put an anchor into here. Where am I going to put it? I'm going to put a visit link. That's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to put a plus. I'm going to put a div with an anchor that has an href product item dot html. And then, is that right? Is that right? Product item dot html. Aha! And I'm going to say visit. Save, refresh. Okay. Whoops. Did I just break that again? What is that? Hold on. Why did that break? Why does that have 0 size? Oh, you guys, I'm so stupid. Jeez. Okay, we got a visit link now. And hey guys, this is something that you should all have on your midterms. Is that just every product in your product list, which by the way I want to remind you there is a minimum of 12 unique items on the product list. It's not supposed to be lorem ipsum, it's not supposed to be the same image repeated, it's supposed to be 12 unique items so that we can see the concept of your store. And there's, I mean, they can be pants, but they're supposed to be 12 unique items, right? There should be a way to, buy them. So you should be able to link. And you guys, since we only have one product item page, just make all of the items link to the same product item page. So now I can link to my product item page. Okay, so here we are on the product item page. I'm going to go into the product item page, and I'm going to do something that I feel like a lot of students should know about, but I guess they don't. I'm going to make a div right here. Inside of here, I'm going to make an input, and it's going to be of type number. And it's going to have a value of 1. It's going to have a max of, like, let's say 10, and a min of, let's say, 0. Let's have a min of 1. We're going to save, we're going to refresh, and now we got this nice little number input where you can just click up and down. Look at that, it's built right into the system. Even better, because this is a number input, if we, which by the way, it still needs design, you should all look at that and go, that needs design. Because we now have a number input, if we open this up on a phone, it'll actually open up our number keyboard to type something into it, which is really nice. So this is what you should use. You should not be trying to design something that the operating system already has for you. The operating system has a number input. It's even better on mobile than it is on desktop. And you shouldn't be bothering with the idea of trying to add, now it needs labeling. It doesn't have labeling right now. This form now needs some labels, which it doesn't have. But you shouldn't be trying to design a plus and minus button when it's already built into the operating system. Is my answer to that question. It's the wrong solution to the problem. Hey guys. Next week, we're going to have a little bit of lecture, and then mostly it's going to be a workshop day. You can't miss it. You still have to come. But it's going to be a work day. Next week, you should have how much of your midterm done? All of it. Yeah. How much time do you have left? You have 2 weeks, and next week is the last week you'll have to ask me questions. That means you should basically be done next week. You've already got your skeleton created, right? You've already got all of your pages made. You've already got them sort of laid out with grayscale and boxes and stuff like that. Now you need to go through and make everything responsive, and you need to make everything relatively unique for your site. And then you need to be, you should be as close to done as you can be next week. Next week you should come in not saying, can you teach me everything again, but saying, I have a question about this, or I need help with this, okay? You should already be at the problems. You shouldn't be like, oh, I haven't started yet because it's hard. You should already be at the problems next week. If there are. So next week is the week honestly, the closer you are to done, that means in your final week, you have the least amount of work to do. I would say that next week, at the very least, your design should be done. Now, your content can all still be placeholders in lorem ipsum, but by the way, at the midterm, you're not supposed to have any placeholders or lorem ipsum, okay? For your midterm, you're not supposed to have any placeholders or lorem ipsum. You're also not supposed to have any spelling errors. You guys have an EAP teacher back here who is more than willing to look, I assume, he's probably willing. He might. He might look over your project and at least check headings for spelling and check product names for spelling and grammar and stuff like that, okay? This is not something that you should fail at because you have too many resources available to you, okay? Any questions? Yes?
What is it due after final midterm project? I mean, the due date.
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks means
Module 7. It will be due on that day.
Module 7.
Yes, you have 2 work weeks left in class. You will be doing a presentation, showing it to the class. You will turn in your code, and it will lock at the end of that day.
So we don't have any time to get done after that.
What would be the point? You already presented it. No, it's supposed to be done. You'll get feedback, at which point you should continue to refine it for your portfolio. But your project will be done 2 weeks from now. At least in terms of academics. Yes?
For the presentation, do we need to explain the coding?
So for your presentation, you will have a limited amount. This is a packed class, okay? You'll have a limited amount of time to give your presentation. So it's more about doing a walkthrough as if you were trying to sell it to a company. As if a company had asked you for a redesign and you were trying to pitch your redesign for their site. That's the way you should basically walk through. You're gonna be like, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna come in here, see the nice advertisements. They really get people going. This is a nice navigation. See how it's responsive. Cool, cool, cool. Walk forward. You can talk about any programming that you're super proud of. Like if you solved a thing, if you did, hey guys, if anyone does programming, if any of you actually did programming, make sure I know it in your presentation. Make sure I know, oh, by the way, I fucking did this shit. I didn't look online. I figured this out. If any of you do something like that, you let me know. You make sure I know. It is an important skill in business to make sure that your management understands your contributions. It is an important business skill to not be boastful, but to make sure that your contributions are understood. So if you did programming, make sure I know. In the presentation, if you solved an issue and you made a thing and you were like, look, I wanted to make a thing and I looked at the tutorial and it didn't do what I wanted to do, so I had to make it myself. I made this. You tell me that. If you didn't, don't bother. And if you didn't, don't bother. Because if I go looking at your project and I found out you copied it from some tutorial, oh, we're done. Yes?
Are we allowed to use Bootstrap? No.
We are not allowed to use Bootstrap in this class. After this class, you are highly encouraged to learn Bootstrap. It is a complete system where we're sort of piecemealing in a new system, right? We're making our own system and hopefully trying to learn it as we make it. Bootstrap is done. Now that means it's bigger. It'll take you longer to learn it. But learning Bootstrap is a good thing after this class. Wait till after this class. Don't confuse yourself by trying to learn it during this class.
So JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. That's everything.
For the midterm.
Okay.
All right, we're done.